Welcome into Dreamcasters. I'm Devon O'Day.
And it's me, Bill Cinque, the guy with the last name that no one spells correctly and no one can pronounce.
It's so funny when I have my little electronic assistant call you. She always says, "Calling Bill Cinque."
Yeah, they're very continental.
They're very continental,
which is kind of that's the proper pronunciation, I think, in Italian. But that's not me.
That's neat. It's like, hey, this is how I say my name, and always laugh because my birth name is a French name, and no one ever said it right here.
Yeah.
So I just changed my name and made it easier, for everybody. And now when people mispronounce my name, I correct them.
Yeah.
The other one I gave them a little license on the other one, but this one I'm going, no, it's not Devon today.
Yeah.
Devon today. And I go, no, you even add in a D. It's like, no. But it's really interesting that we were talking about names and how to pronounce them and kind of planning a dream requires something of us. And I thought that your book is so good at laying out some of the plan of how you planned a dream, how you filled up your calendar, how you filled up your days, and how you organized your time. I thought we could break that down just a little bit for someone who is planning their dream, because, the old adage, and I don't know who to credit the quote from. It's a famous writer, but it wasn't Faulkner, I don't think. But it's every day they show up at 9:00 dressed in overalls, prepared to work or whatever. And that's what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
What is our preparation for the dream that we have?
The idea of having a dream, maybe even using the word choosing a dream,
mm-hmm.
is important. And that sounds so simplistic on the surface, but what I mean is this. Have you ever spoken to somebody that complains about their job or complains about their life, or they're not happy, and you say to them, well, what would you really want to do? What is it that you really want? When they say, I don't know, I'm stuck, because I've always known what I wanted to do. And I don't expect that of everyone, but when someone doesn't know what they want, my first thought is, we need to address that immediately. And so I think there are some people that are just stuck and they don't even know what they want. So the first thing would be, obviously, to have a target, right? To have a goal, to have something to shoot for. And once you have that, I think you do the, whatever they call it, deconstruction, or the backwards mapping. Okay, I want to go to the moon. Put myself on the moon and work backwards, that kind of thing.
Yeah. First, I'm going to fly to Dallas.
Yeah. A little easier to do. What I always thought was this. Anytime, if in fact it's really something that you really want to do,
mm-hmm.
there's no way around it. It's going to be 1,000 baby steps. Thinking that there's some shortcut, thinking that, because I know this guy who works at that company, or because I met that writer, or I live in this city, that you're going to jump 100 rungs up the ladder. It's not the way it goes. I think Hollywood is full of those people, right? That
mm-hmm.
They came to Hollywood. I'm a pretty young girl. I'm going to be a movie star. I'm a guitar player. I'm going to be the next Jimi Hendrix. The streets are littered with these people. And the idea is, you didn't fill in those baby steps. I was always a big fan of saying, if you were on the other side of the table, I always put myself in this situation. If I'm the manager and you came to me and said, this is what you want, I would say how and why 1,000 times to you. I want to write a book. Why?
Mm-hmm.
What's it going to be about? When did you start? Have you written anything yet? I would have 1,000 questions for you, and it wouldn't be to aggravate you, although it might be aggravating.
Mm-hmm.
It would force you to channel everything and put things in line so you could put it in motion. I say 1,000 baby steps because the idea of, well, I'm just going to sit down and write a song because song's only 3.5 minutes, and my friend Devon O'Day is a hit songwriter.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it can be done. So if she can do it, why can't I? Well, yeah, but Devon O'Day put in a lot of time into her songwriting. I know that for a fact. Planning it out and getting those first couple of steps one foot in front of the other is always the hardest part. And I think you have to work really hard to make sure that you're moving in the right direction from the very beginning.
I think one of the things it starts with, like you said, put your dream down there, but put one, because I'm not saying that you have one dream. I'm saying that you have a lot of dreams. Let's try the dream that you find most accessible today. I want to learn something, like I want to play the guitar better. I want to write a book. I want to write a screenplay. I want to start my own business. Okay, write down the thing that you want. Then I think that another practical thing is write down everyone you know or know of that does that thing that you want to do. See how close you can get to meeting with them and buy them coffee. See if you can get one to meet with you and give you literally advice. See if they will, because a lot of people are really good and open to sharing their knowledge with you. And number 3, find out what you don't know in that conversation or in not that conversation. Find out what you don't know and learn it. Whether you take a class, whether you go to YouTube, whether you go to udemy.com and find out if you can take something to learn that thing. It's like when you decided to becoming a hypnotherapist, you kind of figured out, here's what I need to do. Here's that. What led to that, by the way? Being a lifetime musician, what led to, because that's an example of having more than one dream.
Yeah, and it was. I wish I had some fantastic story, because I have a lot of fantastic stories, but this might not be one of them. I saw an advertisement for I don't know what else to call it, but an article about hypnotherapy, and I have 2 very good friends who are big time psychologists. One is a psychologist, the other is a psychiatrist. And I spoke to them. I sent them both an email, and I said, I've never even thought about hypnotherapy before. Really, when I say I've thought about being an astronaut, I've thought about robbing a bank. I've thought about lots of things in my life, in my fantasies. I don't think I ever thought about hypnotherapy. And I wish I could find their emails. I should probably read it on the air the next time. Mm-hmm. They both wrote back to me in 30 seconds, went, oh, this would be perfect for you. You have this and you have that and you have that temperament and you have that kind of, your mind works that way. And it was such a big boost that I started looking into it. And kind of like what we were just saying, all of a sudden, it was a dream and it was clear. It wasn't drudgery. It wasn't I hate to say day job, right? But It wasn't that kind of thing where, well, I just need this to pay the rent. I don't want to do it. I was into it. I was looking forward to it. And I was instantly motivated. Now, my 2 friends, Shirley and Kelly, if they're
yep.
What they did for me is they definitely took me 5 rungs up the ladder. But nobody's going to take you 200 up the ladder, right? That's what I mean about the baby steps. I mean, I had help from them and I had encouragement, but I had to put all these little pieces together. So when that first spark came of this word hypnotherapy, which I didn't know anything about.
Mm-hmm.
It just resonated with me. And resonating is one of my favorite words. Resonance is one of my favorite words. You don't have to know why it resonates with you. You might figure that out
Right.
later. And so it put me on a path. Now, this goes to everything else we were talking about. Suddenly, I was researching it. I didn't know anything about it. I was looking at different schools. I was looking at different books. I was looking at television shows or documentaries, the pros and the cons. How much does this cost? How long does it take? Let me see these success stories. And also, let me see some of the failures. Let me look at the cons. Let me look at really, before I get my toes wet, let me see about all this. And it all just fell into place. But once I got into the school, I knew that it was the only thing I wanted to do. So I had, I'm going to use the word clarity. I was starting from zero. Everyone in your audience, I would bet that there are people in this audience that certainly knew more about hypnosis right now than I did when I started, right? I knew nothing about it. I started from ground zero, but there was something about it that resonated with me. And I just said, not only can I do this, I want to do this, and I'm going to do this. And I worked really hard. I don't mind telling you, I've told your audience before, going back to school at 60 was, not the easiest thing, but I did it, and it's been beautiful. And the idea of I always call it like the way you'd put together a string of pearls, right? One at a time. You just you don't start with a necklace, right? You don't start out with a necklace. You start out with a handful of stuff, and you have to put it together. As I started putting the pieces together, it turned into a career.
Right.
So that's kind of where I went with that.
Well, you actually just proved my point too, because you got the spark, you read the article, you had the interest, then you sought out your experts and you got good guidance. And I didn't say, move you up the ladder necessarily. I mean, you got good guidance. You got encouragement. You got guidance. Then you enrolled and learned your craft. You learned it. You studied, and it wasn't some easy thing. You didn't say, hey, you guys, can you just kind of find something that you can get me an online degree in this? No, you actually studied it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It was intense. It was intense.
And then you move from that into making the dream a reality. And I think whenever we start having dreams, especially after, like, you and I are both over the age of 60, so you really want to do things that are going to make an impact on the world. You want to help people. You want to do something that has merit and has weight in this world. I don't know. It's whether we go, okay, well, I'm probably in my next part of my ascension, of life. Jane Fonda calls it her third act.
Yeah.
And when we start into that, okay, I want to do something that matters to somebody in this world. I want to do something that's going to make life better. When you had your first, and I don't know, you don't call them patients, you first
clients.
Okay. Yeah.
Client is a better word. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Your first clients, what was it like? And what were some of the things that you dealt with?
Well, I do remember. And what was really interesting is, if I can just go 30 seconds backwards, when you're in training and you go to school for this, the instructor will tell you all the time that you do practice sessions. Do them on your family, do them on your friends, do them on your classmates, as much as you can. My other classmates were doing, 5 and 7 practice sessions. I was literally doing 35. I worked on everybody. By the time I got to my first session, I remember sitting down at my desk with my headset and the whole thing. And I remember saying, you know what? I'm never going to be so cocky that it's to my detriment. I'm right where I should be. I can do this. I was working with a woman. It was long distance. And I took it right from the get-go. I put on my hypnosis voice. I asked the questions. We walked through it. And an hour later, she said to me, "That was unbelievable. I would love to sign up for 10 more sessions." And I said, "Okay, well, thank you." And that was that. And I proceeded to do that. Excuse me. That first one, I was wondering if that was, does that mean I'm going to have the sophomore jinx, right? My next one's going to be, I'm gonna be shot down in flames. It went very well, and I know the reason it went well is because it was changing them, but it was also changing me. So it was a perfect marriage. Mm-hmm. If you can find those kind of things in your dreams, as Dreamcasters, I didn't have that all worked out ahead of time. I was exploring, I was figuring out as I went, but I went into that first one knowing exactly what I wanted to do and why I was there. And it was fantastic.
Planning the dream is something that first of all, we've talked about, okay, figure out what you want to do, what would bring you joy. Make a list, write down all those different things that you want to do. Some people call it a bucket list. I do not call it a bucket list. I just say, what are the things you want to do in this life? Mm-hmm. Then 2, find your good counsel, find your wise counsel. And 3, then study what you don't know what you don't know. And then number 4 is you start applying the fact that I am not a one-trick pony. We come into this world thinking I am a one-trick pony. I am my job. It's very much for men. I am a blank. This is who I am, and this is what I do. And you lose that job, and all of a sudden, depression sets in, and all the issues. And I find it a lot with people and friends of mine who've been in the military. They retire, and that's why you've got to watch it when people retire to do nothing. It's like, give yourself 5 days to have a vacation. Give yourself a week, go see, give yourself a month, but then have your next dream in line. So you don't go into those depressions, and you are not a one-trick pony. A diamond is not one facet. That would not make a pretty diamond. Right. A diamond is beautiful because it's had little pieces cut off. And okay, so you lost one job. That was just your page, and that was just your chapter. Look at your next dream on there, and then find out what you don't know. And do you have to do something to pay the bills in the meantime? Maybe. I don't know what your financial situation is. And you might have 2 or 3 dreams going at one time. That's okay too.
Yeah, and they're not necessarily mutually exclusive. I mean, there is the general umbrella called life experience. Mm-hmm. So if you're a mother of 3 and you have to take on a nighttime job as a waitress, I love seeing that mother of 3 walk over to the table with a bunch of kids that are yelling. And you know what? I couldn't deal with that. As a waiter, I would quit. I couldn't deal. But the waitress, who's a mom, brings all of her education, all her life experience to that table. And she is dealing with that family that's making noise and jumping around. And she's good. She's in control. She's got it. The life experience part, I think is too easily dismissed. Because if you are a patient person, you can bring that to whatever job. If you are kind of an intellectual, if you're a fix-it guy, if you're good with a wrench and a screwdriver, that doesn't mean you have to be a mechanic. It just means you can bring the skill set to almost any other situation. And I've always said, in my case, I played music to thousands of people. And I got the vibe, and I understood what they were doing. Could I bring that same vibe one-on-one as a hypnotist? In most instances, most people would say hypnosis has very little to do with music. I would say it has a lot to do. I think they're very similar. So I think bringing the whole package is a lesson for all of us to remind ourselves, to learn and remind ourselves from time to time. We have a lot more to offer than we sometimes give ourselves credit for.
We shortchange ourselves all the time. We shortchange ourselves out of the dream. That's the deal. Is just, and it really is. You show up with a plan, and then you work your plan, and it's. And again, you write down the dream. And sometimes you have to really sit in a room and experience the quiet. And go, what would bring me joy? I was in between, and I needed a reset in my life, and I went to school in I was in pre-vet, and I loved animals. I loved working with it. Only reason I didn't do that, I was terrible at chemistry, but I still loved working with animals. So when I needed a reset from radio, you don't have to have a dream that's even related to your last dream and what you did. What I did was I said, what would I do if I wasn't even being paid? And the answer was, I'd take care of people's animals. So I put a little ad in the little local paper, a little classified ad, to be a pet sitter. And then I got a phone call 3 days into it, and it was a woman who was in the area, and she says, I want to sell my business. And I said, I don't have any money, so I can't buy your business. She goes, no, you don't understand. I need the right person to take over my business. I bought this business for $1, and I want to sell it to you for $1. So right after I put the ad in, I got 125 clients, their keys, their information, and she signed over, and she introduced me to her regular clients. And then we just worked from there. And I had such a good time. I joined a pet sitter organization. I got my insurance through that organization. It was a whole different thing. And I remember going to work at a radio station part-time just to kind of do it. And I remember one of the naysayers in the thing, he goes, I bet you're glad to be doing this radio thing to quit changing litter boxes. And I said, you know something? I make more changing people's litter boxes than you will ever, ever, ever pay me here.
Yeah.
And I love what I do. And and my clients are always happy to see me. Ever go to a house that's got a dog that's been alone for about 6 hours? Hi, you're that lady. Even the cats who don't like other people, they're like, hi, can you talk to me? It was the greatest time ever. So sometimes your dream has nothing to do with what you've been doing. Open your horizons up to what brings you joy. What would you do if you weren't being paid for it?
And, it's always interesting to hear you tell these kind of stories because, as you know, I'm your biggest fan. And in addition to you and I being, great friends for all these years, when I explain what you do to some of my friends who have yet to meet you, they sometimes think I'm talking about 3 different people, because I've been there when you were taking care of horses, and I remember jumping in the car with you because you had to run in and literally change the litter box. And then you were on air. and then, you did write some songs, and you wrote a huge song for George Strait and many other songs, and you're an author, and so when I hear you tell these stories, it's amazing because in there, just right in the middle of that thread is, well, I was doing this and the other thing, but you know what? Me hanging out and playing with the cat and bringing that aspect into your life is huge. It's not, as that guy said, it's not some sideline that that can be dismissed. No, you love animals, and you know what? If you love animals, that means you're raking the muck in the stalls, and that means you're up at night sometimes. I mean, there's consequences to it. There's a cost to it, but it's worth it. And it's always very enlightening for me to hear you talk about these kind of things because they're not small. They're not small items. It's beautiful, and we should all kind of really hold on to that. It would be very easy for my good friend Devon here to sit there and talk about accomplishments. Well, one of her great accomplishments is what she does for these animals. I don't know I don't know where that rates on your credits. I don't know where that goes in your resume, but for you, that's a big deal. And the way your face lit up talking about when you walk in and the dog comes running,
I know.
I know that feeling, and it's great. I think sometimes for a podcast like this, those people watching, what they felt when you said that was maybe more than the words that you said, because we could feel it from you and we could see it.
Well, thank you for that. And it really was and is the joy of my life. And I go, being able to say, I like this. I have joy doing this. There's Ellen who might be watching. Ellen Zucker is the most organized person I know. So she created a business, Easy, Ellen Zucker, Easy Organizing. And she would go into someone's house and help them organize their life. That's what she loves to do. And she created her own thing. And I know that there is Miss Jackie Wilson. She's an amazing singer. And I say Miss Jackie Wilson so you don't get it confused with Jackie Wilson, but she's a great singer. But she's also an amazing organizer, and she can go into someone, you've been into a musician's house that everything is just all cluttered and they have all these mementos. Okay, it's me. Here we are. But she can walk in and say, okay, here's your collection of ball caps. Here's your collection of vinyl. Here's your collection of this. Here's your collection of that. And all of a sudden, everything is like she waves her magic fairy wand of organization. And it's like amazing. And you're going, how did you even do this? Her before and after work. And so it was interesting. And I started looking at my own life. And I said, what do I enjoy doing? I mean, I even kept, I created a whole new way of dressing to take care of the animals. I had these old, and they were almost worn out Ugg boots. But when I had little ankle biters, as what I said, there was always, it was never the pit bulls that always were bitey. It was always like the little ones that didn't know who you were at first. And so I wore these old shoes, these old Ugg boots that nobody could bite through till I got to know them. And pretty soon they were fine and go, oh, there's that lady. There's that lady. And it's amazing how it's so funny. I just saw here the organista, putting your stuff where it really belongs. That's my friend Jackie's business. And I didn't even realize that I even had that. Anyway, I didn't mean to. Sometimes it's just like, but I saw that and I go, oh, there's something in your life that you love, that you truly love, that brings you joy. And you might not even entertain that as a dream. You might think, I'm 65, I am leaving my job, and I don't have a dream left. I'm like you. If I ask somebody what their dream is, well, what do you enjoy? What is something you've always wanted to do? And they answer, it happened recently. I asked someone, well, what is it you really want to do? Because they had just left their job because it wasn't what they wanted to do. And I applauded that. I said, well, what is it that you really want to do? Well, I don't know. And I thought, I can think of 20 things right now.
Sure.
I mean, I even think being a greeter at Walmart is really cool. I think that's like the best job ever. I think, hi, welcome to Walmart. I would love that job.
It's all positivity.
Yeah.
Well, we, a few episodes back, you mentioned your friend who said he was an acquaintance was a professional waiter. Mm-hmm. And you said, wow, it was so refreshing to hear that term.
Mm-hmm. Norm, my friend Norm, yeah.
Yeah, when you said that, my first thought was, I want to eat at that restaurant.
Absolutely.
I don't know what they serve. I don't care. I don't care if it's Chinese food or Italian food. I don't know what it is.
You want to go meet Norm, yeah.
That's the kind of guy, because he's into his job. He's committed to doing the right thing. I've always said, if you take 10 people like that, you can start a company. It doesn't matter what they do. 10 people that have that attitude, you can change the world. And in that case, I'm not so much speaking for Norm, but I'm saying just in the general premise, I don't know that being a waiter is his dream, but what is being his dream is putting his best foot forward, taking his best shot at everything he does. That's a dream within itself. So, you know, if you're going to bite into the apple, this is going to be the greatest tasting apple ever, right? Nothing's inconsequential. Everything is heavy. Everything is big. Everything is big and bright. And when you see a guy like that, if he's a waiter, I want to eat at that restaurant. If he's a guitar player, I want to go see him. If he's a delivery guy, I'm going to use his company, because you see the work ethic and you see the drive that he has.
Well, he's a true inspiration to me. I like to be around people who do what they love to do. And everybody, if you've spent time with someone who says, I'm going to do this until I get my dream, there's nothing that says you have to do a day job that you hate in order to do the dream that you love.
Yeah.
Find something that you love that brings in your day to day. Find something that you can enjoy. Find something that you can put your all into on your way to planning your next dream. You can have two coinciding dreams. That it really does work that way. Fill your time with things that you love. That's the first thing. Life is too long to live with stuff that you just hate doing.
Yeah, it's not too short. It's too long. I have always had an issue with, there's a very specific terminology that people use day in and day out. And again, talking about musicians, they'll say, well, don't you want to try to maybe be a mechanic or a chef, just so you have something to fall back on? And I said, well, I would never say that to you.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody ever say to the guy in shipping and receiving, hey, Bob, this is a good job you have here in the warehouse, but do you think you want to be a brain surgeon just in case you have something to fall back on? You would never say that to those people. I didn't want anything to fall back on. I wanted to do this. I didn't want a plan B. I didn't want the soft landing. I was well aware of the fact, with eyes wide open, that I was going for a career that was going to be tough. I was going to bang my head 1,000 times. I was okay with it. It was interesting that I was the one, it was my head that was being banged. Mm-hmm. I was okay with it. Other people weren't. I think these are the types of things that when we talk about on this, on this show, the idea of planning your dream is, it is going to be 1,000 baby steps. Mm-hmm. And for someone to criticize me when I'm on step number 7 of 1,000, I can't really take that criticism seriously. I know how far I have to go,
Yeah. One of the number one reasons that a critic speaks up is not because they love you so much. It's not because they even think that you're going to fail. One of the number one reasons a critic speaks up is they think you're going to succeed. And that shows everything in their life that they didn't try. Because if you do it and you're successful, you prove to them it can be done. And they've used every excuse in the world not to do the thing that they really loved. And I think that that's the thing that we don't ever look at. When people start to be critical, and it's like, you're worried I'm going to succeed. So when you have a critic, I want you to bank that little thought. This person is so worried that I'm going to succeed, and I'm going to show them that the reason that they didn't ever try was just bogus BS. I'm proof that it can be done.
Yeah.
Some people say, well, they're just jealous. No. They're afraid. Yeah. 9 times out of 10, fear and love. That's
exactly what I was going to say. Fear and love. That concept is relatively new to me. Fear and love. I only heard about that maybe, 6 or 7 years ago. And since I've heard of it, it seems like no matter how much you talk about it, it does come back to that.
Yeah.
when you see people that are really genuinely happy for you, it's coming from love. When they're not, it's like you just said, it's fear. It's I guess you're holding up the mirror in some respects, right? You're holding up
Yeah.
the mirror to them. And that's unfortunate. I think a lot of that goes to ego. And again, you follow that back, that goes to fear, right? When you, I'm measuring my self-worth. I have $10, and then you come up with 11. Well, wait a minute now. You have more than I do. I'm lesser than you. I'm mad at you. I have to do everything in my power to get $12. So I'm $1 ahead of you, right? Why can't I just be happy that you have $11? Why can't I just be happy that you are on your way to yours, to your dream? These are the kind of things that when we look at it in these shows that we do, it is worth examining. It is worth examining because when you see what people use to measure their own worth, I was in the military. Somebody asks you, what do you do? I'm in the Air Force. Very short answer. Now you retire from the Air Force, someone asks you what you do, and you go, I don't know. I'm retired. I'm kind of hanging around the house. I'm not in the Air Force anymore. That was my identity. And that threatens some people.
It does. But I want to talk to everybody. Let's talk to and I know we're going a little over, but I've got to bring this up. If you have recently retired, there is nothing wrong in taking your days and not scripting them out from 4 a.m. until 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
If you want to take some days, but if it's fishing that you love and you want to spend time fishing, do that dream. I'm not, and when you say do your dream, it doesn't mean you have to make a living doing it, but you start your day by creating a schedule for yourself of joy. People don't schedule their joy, but you can. Schedule yourself the things that you've never had time to do. And if you've got a day, it's like an orange, squeeze all the juice out of it that you can. It's like, what is it I want to do? Even if you want to put down at 12:30, right after lunch, I'm going to take a nap. You can do that now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So put those things in there that bring about your joy. If you want to go to a movie in the middle of the afternoon with someone you love, you can do that. If you want to volunteer your time at a place that you never had time to volunteer before, and you want to try something, those are all dreams. Now, when we say planning the dream, it doesn't mean something that's going to make you a buttload of money. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying plan the dreams, the things that bring you joy. So start scheduling your joy in, because we learn really quick how to schedule things we don't like. You put mammograms and, colonoscopies on your list, and those are never fun. Just never. There's nothing about them. They're fun.
Yeah.
They're just on your to-do list.
No, but I mean, and the term schedule your joy is fantastic because, again, we'll write down 100 things to do today. Almost none of them will be stopping and smelling the flowers.
Right.
Almost none of them will be, hey, what if I have a cup of tea outside and watch the sunset? And we should all schedule that. Why wouldn't you? What a great idea. Let's all do. I'm just thinking of that now. I'm going to do that tonight. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to actually, I'm promising your audience, and we can check back next time, and you can ask me directly, and I'll tell you. I am going to make it a point to have a cup of tea and sit outside and watch the sunset tonight.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I scheduled in the supermoon on August 31st.
Yeah.
And somebody called me and said, what are you doing? I said, I'm watching the moon.
Mm-hmm.
I said, we're not going to have another moon just like this until 2037.
Yeah.
I don't want to miss today.
No, it's a great dream.
So that's what Dreamcasters is about. Learning how to schedule your joy, learning how to plan for that joy, and learning how to get things that you've put on the back burner your whole life because of fear or whatever. And resentment is never part of the recipe for joy. Have you noticed that no joy recipes include resentment? Let me throw in some resentment because it's going to make this really fun.
Yeah, nothing tastes better with resentment.
It's just like, oh, no. Well, Bill, it's always good to be with you here. And thank you to everybody who watches. Share this on your pages. We are the Dreamcasters. And Bill, I want to share how people get in touch with you, because they can get in touch with you on a regular basis.
Anytime. Matter of fact, tonight at about 7:30 LA time, you could just walk up onto my front porch. I'll be having that cup of tea. But other than that, you can contact me at billcinque.com or also at bchypno.com, which is my hypnosis website. And I would be absolutely thrilled to speak with each and every one of you.
Because sometimes there's a little thing within us that we just kind of can't get to the next step. And you go, look, I need a little help here. And that's what Bill does. And just a reminder too, this incredible book that will really get you thinking. And it's so funny. It's got so many great stories in it. The Amazing Adventures of a Marginally Successful Musician. BillCinque.com is where you can find that, or Amazon, of course. But Bill, thank you.
Thank you. This is a pleasure.
All right. We'll see you guys